So for those that may not know you or not familiar with you and your background, talk a little bit about yourself and your upbringing.
Yeah, so well, I'm a son of the San Joaquin. I grew up in the Fresno area, moved around the state for a bit and experienced a bit of the United States. I ended up graduating with a master's degree in atmospheric science, which is meteorology, from the University of California, Davis, and began a forecasting firm on the internet before the internet really existed. So this was back in the late 80s and into the beginning of the 90s. And I did that for agriculture for a few years, and then began doing computer programming and programming thermodynamic equations to predict the atmosphere, and did that for a while. So I am here as of maybe 7 years ago, after my wife passed, and immediately decided that maybe I ought to become more active serving the community. And that's what I've done in Stallion Springs. I became a community service district director back in 2018. So this is my second term, my second four-year term, elected term with the district. And we do all the same things that the county does, but at a local level. I mean, we have our police, roads, sewer, water, solid waste, pretty much everything that the county does except for fire. We do have county fire there. So I am very much used to policy and deciding policy matters for 3,500 people within the Tehachapi-Cummings Valley in Stallion Springs. I'm also a director with the Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District. And in that I hear variance hearings where commercial and industrial interests have issues with their permits. And so I always have this shove and pull with the people's interest in keeping the air clean and allowing companies to keep moving along and being successful in what they do. And so I've adjudicated many claims in the Eastern Kern from U.S. Borax to Edwards Air Force Base. And many times, in fact, I was a sole adjudicator, so I was making the decision, and that's a lot of responsibility. But I understand my responsibilities here, and that is to keep things moving along within the regulations provided for us. And so that's where I'm at right now. This is my second term as Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District Variance Hearing Director as well.
Well, and obviously it's something you enjoy doing. You've wanted to run for re-election. But what have been some of the biggest key takeaways for you personally that you've learned in those roles in public office?
Oh, well, maybe I didn't. I think maybe I learned it before entering public service in this way. But it's just to listen. And many times that people just want to be heard. They may want what they want, but we all can't have what we want sometimes. So it's a matter of doing what we can in serving the people and serving as many people as is possible. So you may not get what you want at one point, but at another point you may. And it all depends on what the particular thing is you're asking for. Is it something that we can even do in Stallion Springs? Is it something I can do as in the Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District? I mean, what we're looking at here is it something I can do as a Kern County supervisor within the limits of what's happening in the state. And this is a big concern of mine, is in terms of what the state has done to marginalizing Kern County. Some of their efforts, I think, are really ham-handed and don't respect the fact that we are basically a rural county. And this is where I'm at with District 2. It is basically a rural district that really demands different listening, different kinds of solutions than the city. And although part of the city is included in District 2, it is mostly rural. And servicing those rural areas is going to be my priority because they have not really been listened to. And many of them are out there and they're wondering, what is the county doing for me? And I can tell you what the county has done in the last couple of years because I've been active in this. They've raised our property taxes and we get nothing for it. So this has happened on at least 2 occasions, and I've actually been proud to see the citizenry come up against the board on one occasion and deny them a tax raise. That puts all the rest of us in the county at a disadvantage because our taxes are all going to go up to pay for everyone in the county. And this is this pull and tug of making decisions that I enjoy. And I know that every decision as a scientist that I make is going to be based on verifiable data and tempered with compassion.
So kind of what I'm gathering here is that, kind of one of the big things you want people to know about you is that, this area needs to be listened to and you're that person to lend them that ear.
Well, the area within Kern County needs to be listened to, yes. And also Kern County needs to be listened to. We have a number of industries that are kind of endemic or important to Kern County in the way they aren't to other regions in California. Obviously one is energy. Yeah. And I want to see that we keep making this transition to renewable sources of energy. I mean, it is very important. And it does affect us, as we know, from the fires and from the incredible heat this summer and from the hurricanes that are threatening Florida right now. This is no longer conjecture. The question is, what are we going to do about it? I'm going to say something here that I probably shouldn't say in this county, is I'm an environmentalist because I have a degree in biology, I have a degree in atmospheric science, and I understand the way those processes work. Scientists understand the way those processes work. My forte as a policymaker is that I'm going to pull in information from every resource, and I'm going to make it all work together and try to keep our industries going as long as we need them, as long as this world is a dangerous world and requires non-renewable sources, of which we are a major contributor here in California. So I'm going to look at all aspects of this. But in terms of an environmentalist, I'm an environmentalist with a brain. And I'm going to look to every situation, what is best for Kern County. Not for me, not for the governor or another county, but what is best for Kern County. And hopefully we can make all those work out. But we have too many unfunded mandates pushed upon us from the state of California. There is some indication that they're beginning to recognize that, which is good, and maybe I am running for the wrong office, but I will say I have run for other offices, and people know that. If they are familiar with me at all, they know that I have run against Kevin McCarthy in the last 2 House of Representatives cycles, and the last time as an independent. Before all the Republicans came in and claimed that it was unfair and everything, but so we have who we have now, another Republican as our representative in the District 20 of the California U.S. representative districts. And the question becomes, which I've heard a lot, is, well, why are you running for this office locally? And I don't think I could be consistent wanting to run to represent people of the 20th if I let this opportunity to serve them, even for a year, go by. Because this is really just a subset of the people I already decided I wanted to serve. So to be consistent and to be integral about it, I felt like this office was something that I had to participate in. It's not something that I ever thought I would. Frankly, I didn't realize things were going to happen the way they did, and it was going to open up. And it's only for a year. And what I would say to people is that it is only for a year, and you want someone who can hit the ground running. And that is me, because that is the work I have been doing, making policy for Stallion Springs for the last 6 years. So I am more prepared to take advantage of this rare situation in this single year. And what happens after that, I don't know. I'm kind of tired of running for races, and maybe this will be my last time around. But as an independent, I feel I can serve everybody in this county, everybody in California. And the only change, progressive change that's going to come is from the middle. The only way we're going to work with both sides, and we know that the California legislature is overwhelmingly Democrat, but I can see from my perch in Stallion Springs and in this highly conservative area that they are pushing stuff on us that really is not appropriate to our lives in Kern County. And that's where I'm going to make the difference, is I'm going to look at every situation in toto and address everything as logically as I can.
Awesome. So this is going to lead up to another question I had a little bit later on. So you're labeling, this obviously is a nonpartisan office, but a lot of candidates we've been speaking to or been saying publicly are really identifying with a political party. Are you labeling yourself as an independent?
Well, I'm not only labeling myself, I am a no party preference California independent. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I have registered as a California independent. That is no party preference. So that is my claim, is that I am going to work with both sides. And I believe now, based on what we've seen over the last few years, that change can only come from the middle. So I am dedicated to starting in the middle, working with both sides to get whatever pieces we need to get change coming to this county, because this county is in trouble in many ways. Some of that trouble comes from without the county, but a lot of it comes from within. Yeah. And I feel like I can make a difference there. And I really feel like it's time for somebody other than the parties that you would expect to win in elections within here in Kern County to stand up. And that's where I'm at. I'm standing up.
All right. So we kind of talked about it. You kind of just mentioned there. Kern County, you feel like is kind of under threat. I mean, what do you feel to you personally is the biggest issue facing maybe not just Kern County, but your district over in District 2?
Well, we have a couple of specific things coming up. I mean, since I do have a lot of background in air pollution, we have the inland port coming to Mojave, and that could be a boon for the entire area. It's certainly going to make 58 problematic because I don't think the upgrades they're planning on making to it in the next couple of years are going to include what's going to happen with the port. But what is going to happen with the port, there's going to be a lot more diesel traffic, a lot more train traffic. And that is going to affect our air in the Tehachapi-Cummings Valley. There are already studies that show that although we do have good air movement, much better than you have down here, obviously, that pollution does travel, especially with easterly winds, up to our area. And so the whole area is going to be affected by what happens at the inland port. And while I think it's a good positive movement, that we do need to take care of our air. And again, this is where I'm at because I know and I have seen the data and I've dealt with the data and I've wrote equations using the data in a previous life when I was doing forecasting and computer programming to create models, is that these changes that are coming need to be tempered with quality of life. And our main issues here are air pollution and economics. I think everything else will work out. The homelessness, the crime. Once we solve economics in the area and become less depressed, and we become less dependent on certain traditional industries, that the entire district will benefit from that. And we will become a very very much an area where people will want to move to. And right now, I think it may be more of a last resort based on economics. But whatever gets people here and whatever gets people excited about living here, because we have so many different areas in terms of climates and topography, and there's a lot to offer in Kern County. And this is something I've always, this is the great thing about California, isn't it? But in terms of Kern County, we have the valley itself, we have the mountains, we have the deserts in eastern Kern County, and it's really quite a fantastic place to live if we can kind of drag ourselves out of the mud of the traditional industries and what they have done to our environment.
Well, and kind of a follow-up to that, I guess, because obviously I think when a lot of people here in this region, we know the realities of this region. It's a pretty right-leaning region, and especially when it comes to oil, I feel like when people kind of hear that there's, that we need to maybe rein this industry in a little bit more or be more responsible about it, I think a lot of people, get worried that means, you're going to be potentially taking them out of a job. What do you say to voters who may be concerned by that rhetoric that we need to rein in these non-renewable energy sources?
Well, as a matter of fact, I think one of your own stories last year indicated the methane, the uncapped methane releases from oil. It's like 40%. Methane is a very potent greenhouse gas, more potent than carbon dioxide. It's trapping more heat from the earth from getting out, and so. Methane and even the wells that are idle, again, a very high percentage of methane releases. So, we need to make people accountable for their past deeds and what they have out in the valley right now in terms of capped or idle oil wells. And then the industry itself needs to bring itself up to a standard where they can assure us that we have clean air, because right now we just don't. We do have bad air coming in from the Bay Area. That's just a function of the bowl down here and the fact that we have mountains around three sides of Bakersfield and the Southern Valley. We can't do anything about that, but we can do something about what we put into the atmosphere. And in terms of jobs, many of those oil jobs can be totally saved as we transition out of the oil economy into, for instance, steam injection, which is a method of producing energy, and use all the same wells, the same workforce, the same technology. So that has real promise to keeping everybody working. But I think we need to be real about what this area needs to both balance industry and livability. And it is a difficult thing to consider a very long-term industry that has been here and produced jobs and oil. But I have to remind people that our gas here is never going to be cheap, because oil is not traded locally, it's traded on the global economy. So if you want cheap gas, then having oil wells here in the oil industry isn't probably going to get you cheap gas, except that it will add to the global reserve. And whoever's setting or whoever bidding on it at that point is going to determine how much we are paying for oil. But we are paying the price because it is something that we are breathing that is unhealthy. All these, and then with global warming, otherwise known as climate change, being a real thing now that we finally can't deny. That's the other aspect of this too, is we have to move in a different direction. And Kern County is really been a leader in terms of renewables, solar and wind I mean, I know this up in Tehachapi, where we have the largest wind fields of anywhere in the entire world. So we are moving in the right direction. I want to see that we keep moving in the right direction without leaving anyone behind, and that includes industry. I hope industry will become my partner when I become supervisor.
All right, definitely. So kind of moving forward and looking kind of just at the race in general, why do you feel like you're the best candidate for this job compared to the other 5 candidates? I know you just had a debate last night. You know, were there any kind of revelations, you know, in that debate that really made you go, this is why I think I stand out above the rest?
Well, I think the main revelation I've already voiced is that I'm ready to go. This is only a 1-year job at this point. And I already have experience, 6 years of it, making policy. There is no difference from what I do as a director with the Community Service District that a Kern County supervisor does. We do the same policy making with regards to infrastructure and with what goes on in our community. So again, my rubber is ready to hit the road. And that's not to say that the other people aren't qualified. I really enjoy all of them, and I mean, we all took a picture together, and I think we all like each other, and I'd be happy to work with any of them at any time. I think they all have strengths, but I have experience, and you know, the one thing I can say that maybe people will latch on to is I'm a government servant, but I don't get a government paycheck. I never have. Well, except for one time. One snowy night in Yosemite, my wife and I were corralled into helping the search and rescue for an overdue skier. And that's because we have a particular set of skills. But other than that, I've never received a paycheck from the government. So I've always made my own way and had my own businesses. I understand that aspect of it, small businesses, because I've had them. So those are my strengths, and the fact that I've already shown a willingness to serve over the last 6 years. And I'm serving in 2 different entities, both my Community Service District and the Eastern Kern Air Pollution Control District.